time for Senior Talk with Rex Brandstatter, brought to you by the Solon American Legion.
Hello, everybody. This is Rex Brandstatter. Hello to all my friends out there at the Solon American Legion. Hope you're having a great day. Have at it, and good luck to all you men and women who served our country. Well, listen, it is time for Senior Talk, a weekly radio program where we try to cook up and think up, not think up, delve into things. We don't think this stuff up. Delve into topics that could be very important to you seniors. And thank you so much for listening to Senior Talk. You know, it's really not easy being a senior, and I have firsthand reports all the time, every week, of seniors asking me this. We're going to get into some of that, complaining about this or that, and it's usually health related. We'll talk about things like retirement. And by the way, speaking of retirement, congratulations to any and all of you who might have retired at the end of the fiscal year, June 30th. It might have retired last Tuesday, or tomorrow on Friday is your last day on the job. See, this goes on and on, ladies and gentlemen. So congratulations to each and every one of you for coming down the trail this far with your job. And now you're going to retire from that one and go do nothing. Go do whatever it is you plan to do. That's your plan. Plan A would be to do whatever it is you plan to do. If that is working part-time, have at it. If that is taking a year off and not doing anything except play golf and fish, or go to gun shows, or go to antique stores, whatever it is you want to do, that's the beauty of a retirement. Well, so I'm told, because I'm not, but that's why you came down the road this far, and congratulations to each and every one of you for sure. Well, we'll talk retirement and health and income, financial issues, expenses, family, living arrangements, and trust me, folks, they're all, well, living arrangements, Rex, what could living arrangements be? Well, let me tell you what some of the living arrangements that I have dealt with in the real estate business. Of course, there's mom and dad at some point, and then maybe mom is gone or dad is gone or they're divorced, and now the daughter that they had who lives with mom got married, and now she and her new husband live with mom, and now all of a sudden there's a junior there. And or the daughter, anyhow, it just goes on and on and on. It could be the husband. It could be you and your husband are living there, and your son comes back having a hard time in business, brings home with his wife and 2 kids until they get their feet on the ground, and now you become Grand Central Station. And whether you have feelings yay or nay, that's what's going to happen. And you know, since I'm not a parent, can't really go too far down this road here. But there are all kinds of different living arrangements for sure. And one of the things I would tell you is to, when they decide they're going to move to your house and you say, okay, sit down and go over your rules, not theirs. Your rules, because guess what? It is your house. Your house on the rules. And whatever your rules are, those are the rules. And so many people don't do that. Well, I didn't know our grandson was going to be there too, and have his friends over too, and expect us to buy root beer for them, you know, and stuff like that. So you've got to get the rules if that happens. It's your son or daughter may be coming home, and that's your offspring. So you know, that's kind of your assignment is to take care of them the best you think you can know how. That's up to you, how you do it. But just do everything up front so everybody knows the rules. Speaking of root beer, I want you to relax, take a little time off your job or your noontime here, get yourself a sandwich and a nice cold root beer, and let's see what we can do. We're going to talk a lot of senior stuff, including past people, places, and events, and we're going to go. So my name is Rex Brandstatter. I'm 75 years old, and I've been a licensed Iowa real estate broker here in Iowa, and working mostly in Iowa City, Coralville, Johnson County area since 1974, and I do work mainly with seniors and senior families. We meet lots and lots of times at my office, at your home, down at your coffee shop, things like that. I've met with people at their attorney's offices, at their CPA's office, to go over some things, because there's a lot of planning. You know, a key word in being a senior is planning, and key word in not being a senior and being in your 40s, planning. Financial planning for sure, and so many people don't. I read an article not long ago that said 20% of the people in this country have visited a financial planner. 20%, 1 out of 5. Everybody thinks they can manage their money themselves. Some people can. Some people are very good at it. Others have no clue. So get with it, folks. Get with it. So I have a senior line. If you'd like to call and talk to me, I'm at 319-330-5534. 330-5534. As a matter of fact, if you're in your 30s or 40s and listening to Senior Talk to pick up some of these things, I highly suggest you do that, because you would have, let's say you're 40 years old listening today, and retirement is pegged in this country as you don't have to be 65. You can be older or younger. We all know that. But let's say call it 65. You've got 25 years of a run-up, 25 years to get more plans. Sure, you're paying into Social Security, most likely, or a pension plan, but at work, maybe they're matching it. Maybe you can get a double match. Who knows? You need to go talk to ID department, or your HR department. You can all kinds of things. You could sit down with a planner, because you can be a little aggressive at age 40 and come out of this thing at age 65 with maybe 3 times the money you thought you were going to have, because you did some planning. I really, really suggest that, and trust me, folks, you'll really do well for yourself if you do take the time to plan. Well, I would say the summer's not over yet, and man, has it been hot. Key word is hot, hot, hot. You just heard the weather forecast. The East Coast closing schools is going to be 100 degrees. Well, that's what we had. It just went through here. It's really not done yet. It's pretty nice out there today. But I actually like hot weather, but I didn't want to be outside. I usually walk in the afternoons many times, but I didn't venture out. 75 years old, I figured I'd never come home. My wife was all for it, of course, but no. But I just figured better not go out there in the heat of that day. So I didn't. If you did, why, yeah, and your body can handle it, more power to you for sure. So on days like Monday and Tuesday, my dad would allow my brother and I to mow in the evening. What a guy. Yeah, a little hot out there, boys. You might as well wait till evening until it cools off a little bit, which it never really cooled off. That was his way. You were going to get to mow that day. You might as well get up first thing in the morning and mow. Do it in the evening. Oh, well, that was what it was. Well, school started back. The University of Iowa's back in gear, and local grade schools are. They don't go one day, then have the next day off. That's kind of the way it is in Iowa, I guess. And they're busy doing whatever they're going to do in here. What do you think about? Do you remember your first day in school, whatever grade it is? Pick a grade. Your first day in third grade, your first day in kindergarten. I remember the only day I really remember is my first day in kindergarten. And I have a photo of that, kind of interesting. But what about you? Did you go to a country school? I always kind of felt I did not attend a country school, but I've always been very infatuated with stories with friends of mine who attended a one-room school. My dad went to a one-room school in Coralville. It just always got me how in one room, most of them are in the country. Of course, we call it country school. In the country, and you might have kids show up, might have a kindergartner and two third graders, a fourth grader, a seventh grader, and 3 eighth grades, something like that. And in one room, and what I don't understand how the teacher kept the first graders busy and then the third graders busy, and then went over and got the one girl in the fourth grade and the 2 boys in the sixth grade, and the eighth graders, maybe 3 eighth graders, all different levels of competency, levels of instruction that teacher would have to know. And nowadays, of course, the second grade teacher teaches this every year, and the eighth grade teacher teaches that every year, with tweaks along the way, of course. But the country school teacher was really the jack of all trades, man and or woman. I recently read the contract for the old school in Coralville, which was opened in 1876. I found some teacher contracts from early 1900s, and part of their job was to stoke the fire. And it had to be stoked, I think, at least 1 hour before the kids got there. So let's say the kids got there at 8 o'clock. So by 7 o'clock, that teacher had to be there back then to get that fire going. Now, the teacher couldn't live very far away because they had to be there, and they had to keep that fire going all day. There weren't any pipes to freeze because they had an outhouse rather than indoor plumbing, so that wasn't a concern. But they had to make sure they could get there the next day, type of thing. So it was I would call it a tough sled, no pun intended, back there. But I have always been infatuated and interesting about the one-room schoolhouse. I will tell you this: at the Johnson County Fair about 5 years ago, the good folks at the Johnson County Historical Society, I worked in their booth that one day at the fair, And their big show, special that year, was one-room schoolhouses. And they had the big map of all the one-room schoolhouses in Johnson County. And some pictures from everyone. And we had, that was the most fun I've ever had working at a booth. My dad made my brother and I made us work at his business booth. We didn't like that so much, but this was a volunteer deal. The people that would go by, and all you had to say was, did you go to a one-room school? It was, yes, I did, or my brother did, or my sister did, or yes, I did for 2 years, and that was the greatest conversations. We'd point to it, and they go, well, we went to Sharon, number 3, and we went to Jefferson, number 1, and we were down here. Folks, it was easy pickings if you like to talk to people. And I do, and I had a lot of fun down there. It's the best program, in my opinion, that we've had there for a long, long time. Say, speaking of the Johnson County Historical Society, they have a wonderful museum in Coralville, right next door to the Antique Automobile Museum on East 9th Street. If you will, catty corner from 30 Hop Restaurant, right across the street from 30 Hop, right next door to Iowa Athletic Club, which basically is in the lower level of the hockey arena. It's right there. They got signs along East 9th Street there by that roundabout, and you can park anywhere down there. Anywhere you find a place, you don't have to pay for parking. Go in there. You have to pay $10. You get to see 2 museums. The Historical Society, they call themselves the Hysterical Society. The Hysterical Society and the Car Museum, and I'm telling you, folks, that's a wonderful couple hours at a minimum you could spend there. And let me ask you this. Do you think you might have things that were germane to Johnson County history in your home, in your past, in your attic that nobody knows what to do with? If they have some importance of some sort, at some level, doesn't have to be the governor's chair or anything like that, something that was used by a resident of Johnson County, not your aunt and uncle in North Dakota, but germane to Johnson County, you might want to give them a call down there. Call Alexandra, and at the Johnson County Historical Society, and maybe send them a picture from your phone, or if you don't have a phone, don't worry about that. Maybe take a couple items in and see if they're interested, and they can go on display. That's what a museum is all about, displaying artifacts. And in Johnson County, we've got so much history down there. It's great, but so many more relics sitting around that we sure like to have down there. So that's the scoop. Wow. Well, I've just kids are back in school, and the university's back, and you know something, that some university students are listening today in their 20s. I think they'd have 40 years worth of planning to do. Start planning when they got a job, start salting it just a little bit away month by month by month by month. Think of the money they'd have in addition to Social Security, which may or may not be what it is today when they get there, for sure. Well, I heard on the news just before I came on the air about they had in the news about mosquitoes. And mosquitoes, they're blaming global warming. They're blaming that on everything, by the way. They talked about mosquitoes, and they said the thing to do is to drain the dishes and things like that. That is true. That is so true. And here's how Coralville handled that when I was a kid in the 1950s. This is not scripted. This is right off the top of my head, but here's how they did it. Why would Coralville, which was at the time maybe 1,500 to 2,000, maybe 2,500 later on, this would be back in the mid to late 50s, why would Coralville have a mosquito problem? They did. True story. So the town of Coralville at that point, we'll call it the city of Coralville, decided they needed to defog for them. So they had a big machine that they pulled behind a truck with a trailer, and there was a big machine that made a gosh awful noise, sounded like a big growler, and it made smoke. And as they drive up and down the streets, you could hear it coming. Well, we kids, we wanted to run through it. We got as close to the wagon as we could because it created a fog, and we thought we were so cool to run through the fog. That was a big entertainment. It was a great, in the summer, a couple of times you'd hear that thing, go away you go. Well, what we didn't know at the time was, at least nobody knew at the time, that there was DDT. Yeah, that DDT. And they got it in the barrels, I assume, as it looked like. And they had some kind of a fog machine, which would be a pump with a fan on it, and sprayed it out. And away they went. And they did that for several years up and down the streets of Coralville. Now, why would Coralville have the mosquito problem? Well, here was the deal. There were no paved streets when I was a kid. None. 5th Street was the only paved street in Coralville, and that was actually, when I was a kid, U.S. Highway 6 until the strip got built in about 55, 54. So that was the only paved streets. So the rest of us had, up and down the streets, 6th Avenue, 7th Avenue, 8th Avenue, 9th Avenue, it was chip and seal, more chip than seal. And next to the road, they were kind of crowned. In other words, they had sort of a crown on them. You had a ditch for the water. When the water would come here, the water would run off the street into a ditch. And when you had a driveway, they had a culvert, a steel culvert. Then they put gravel on top of it when they built your house, and that was the water would come from the building, the house, we'll say, up the hill a little bit, run through the culvert and down. Well, accumulated all different places. Some areas were flat, so the water that's just sat in the ditch. Well, that's where mosquitoes are born. That's where mosquitoes are hatched. So that was the problem. We had the streets, but we had ditches, so the stupid mosquitoes would just get hatched in those ditches. We had a big time problem. Well, they decided that was a pretty good way, but someone sold the Coralville City Council, and I'm going to tell you, this would have been 1960, maybe 59. They sold Coralville on the fact that we don't need that defogger anymore. We're going to spray it with an airplane, which we kids were absolutely on cloud nine because it was a biplane, a double winger as we call it. A biplane, 2 wings. And so here they would come up, use the streets as their guide, and they'd fly real low, and we'd wave to the guide, and it was an open-air cockpit, and he had goggles on, he'd wave back, and we'd go out there. Our folks were smart enough back then to tell us not to lay down and face up and open our mouth. I mean, we were stupid, but we weren't that stupid. How does that sound? So Coralville tried that. Now, I do remember getting on a swing set and getting up to the very top crossbar of the swing set and trying to stand up there to see if we could touch the bottom of the airplane. Now, they weren't quite that low, but when you're a boy about 10 or 11 years old, you're pretty darn smart in your mind anyhow. So that's what we did, and it was a wonderful time in Coral. That's why we had mosquitoes, because we didn't have paved streets. We had the dishes. Kaboom, now you know the rest of the story. And I knew you needed to know for sure. Well, a senior lady says this to me. Says, my husband had his business forever. He ended up closing and going to work for a company doing the same thing. He sold all his equipment, sold his shop building and the whole thing. Now he's working to handle the last of his debt, and I too am working to make the house payments and work on the debt that he incurred in the last few years of his business. We are in our mid-70s. Then she said, kind of with a shallower voice, after all these years, we have to work. Well, that's not a good story, but it does happen. I would say to you that it sold his business that they had forever. So we're going to say they had that business for 30 years. Just pick a date, 30 years. And for all those years, he went to work at his business, and I know what it was, but we're not going to talk about that. It was a nice business here, Tom. And things were fine, and then towards the end, maybe his product or his service went out. It wasn't as in demand it used to be, but he couldn't give it up because he didn't know what else to do. So he kept going, and all of a sudden now he wasn't paying the bills, and now they had to put mom to work. In this case, mom had to go get a job, and I don't know this, but the kids probably grew up and moved away and didn't want anything to do with the business because he had to sold. He sold the shop and then went to work for the company that he sold it to, it sounds like. Keep doing the same thing. And mom has to work now after they're in their mid-70s. After all these years, she said, we have to work. Well, I hope that's not you, but these things do happen. I have firsthand knowledge of other people like this around, and someone will off the cuff say, when are you going to retire? And they kind of joke and say, oh, one of these days. Well, the truth is they can't, and that's too bad. I think that's sad, yeah. Well, a senior man says this. Years ago, I realized that my company, here's a good story for you, my company was matching my monthly investment from my paycheck to my retirement account, matching it. So if he put in $50 every paycheck, they put in 50. Now, some companies, even locally here, were matching it 2 to 1, and for a while 3 to 1. So if you put in 50, they were putting in 150. Usually that was in lieu of a raise and things like that. They just put it. Well, you didn't think much about it at the time until you came out the grinder 40 years later. You had all this money in there because you put money in, they matched it. Even if it's one-on-one, it's double the amount. Wow, neat deal. I realized, this guy said, he said that I would have double the amount at retirement. And he said, I do. He said, I found out about it real early, and I did it for over 40 years. Wow, isn't that a great story that you hear there? Wow. And that's what I said, that maybe if you're in your 40s or even if you're a college student, if you would take this to your grandson or granddaughter, if you're your grandma and grandpa, and say, Johnny, Or Jane, I see you have a new job here. To kind of give them a little a talking. And I don't mean a talking to. I don't mean a little talking about finances, because nobody else will. If most likely, I don't know that they learned it in school. I don't know that. But say, you're going to be, your company's going to take money out for a 401k, which is where they put your money. They put in a 401k and then invest it for you. But Johnny, it says here that they're going to match it. So, Johnny, if you put in just a young guy starting out, a young lady starting out, if you put in $50 a month, that's quite a bit, Grandpa. I said, okay, $35 a month, every month. Never fear. You put in 35, they'll put in 35. You just put in $70. If they're matching it 2-to-1, just start doing your own math. What a deal. You should be on. You should make sure your grandkids or even your kids, if they're young enough to get started and get a job with someone who's doing that, tell them to take, the key word here is take full advantage. Whatever you can do, crank it in there. Well, we won't be able to go out and eat on weekends. Well, you don't want to do that to yourself, but you do want to, if you're coupled at, whatever it is, $50 a month, would you be comfortable at $75? Because the compounding of that extra $25 is absolutely huge over the years. Absolutely huge. I really think that's a good, I'm a real estate broker. I'm not an investment guy. I'm just telling you, at the end, as a senior, you want a stream of income is the secret to it. And the more you put in, the more you'll get out at the back door of it. Well, we sat down with a guy, and he says, with who we knew, this lady says, and he was a CPA, and he was doing our taxes. And he asked one time, he says, do you have a retirement plan? And we looked at each other and went, no. And she said, well, that was 40 years ago. And today we no longer work and have no plans or needs to work. And we were plain old working people who took the effort to plan. So see what I put together here, like 4 or 5 little stories. And this bottom one here, just right here, is we sat down with the guy we knew, and he was our CPA and was doing our taxes. And he said, hey, you guys have a retirement plan? No, we don't. Wish we did. And they put something together for them, just what we just talked about. So the younger you are, the greater chance you have of coming out with a great plan. Now, you're listening to, I'm 75, so you're listening to me today, and you're about my speed, we'll say. What are you going to do? Well, plan A for us is there's not much you can do for income unless you want to go to get another job, have that, or a couple jobs, whatever you want to do, is to go to the other side of the coin. If you don't have the income, the best thing you can do? You can cut your expenses. Aha! And the hardest lesson you will learn is to get out your checkbook or look at your credit card statement and see where the money's going. Oh, looky there. We went to the restaurant 6 times this month. Well, go 3 times. Cut 3 of them out. Eat a ham sandwich at home. And I don't care what you do. None of my darn business what you do, but I'm just telling that's one way you can do it. With no more income, then you just turn over and cut your expenses. Wow. All right. Well, how about this for some facts? There are 6 million more women than men at age 65. So, gentlemen, at age 65, it looks like there's a pretty big field out there, they would say. At age 65, women, get this, women could expect to live, on an average, another 18 to 20 years. A woman at age 65, on a life expectancy here, average, could live another 18 to 20 years. And get this, 2/3 of Americans over 85 are women. So there's a pretty good crowd on that bus at 65 and older. There's a heck of a lot more women on that big bus than there are men. And women need to know the family retirement plan for sure. So now we've got going here. The women need to know the family retirement plan for sure. Not meaning this, the husband and wife there, and the plan, let's talk about retirement. Well, the easy part, well, I'm going to retire when I'm 65. Okay. Here's what we're going to have. Okay. I'm not going to work. Well, that's your call. But wait a minute. How about the house payment, the car payments? Well, we don't have that because of this. It's just a plan. Whatever your status is. But I'm going to ask you a flat question, ladies and gentlemen. Have you had this meeting with you and your spouse? Have you actually sat down, no kids around, no television on, and say, let's talk about this plan? Or if it's not the retirement plan, let's talk about finances. Now, the last thing you want to do is talk finances because you get an argument. I understand that, but what's the first thing you should do? You should talk finances. You should talk a plan. Just between the two of you. You don't have to go anywhere. Just talk between the two of you. Okay. Women are especially vulnerable to less income than men, and I'm not going out on any limb here. These are facts. Is because in many households the women spent more time with the kids. Now this might be a few years ago rather than today. All the women work too. I understand that. But back in my day, as a senior, not many of the women's worked. The moms were at home for the most part. So this says that the women were home with the kids, a lot of them, and when they did have a job, it was maybe part-time. So their income was less, and so if so they have, when Mr. Smith passes away, if the Mrs. Smith wants to sign up for Social Security, it's not going to be as much as Mr. Smith. Now, if Mr. Smith would pass away, then Mom gets to step up to the highest, gets to get rid of hers and take his. That's a plan, all right? But if Mrs. Smith didn't work somewhere other than the home, and that is work, I totally understand that. But if they didn't work somewhere for a minimum of X number of quarters, because the Social Security Department, you have to have so many quarters, which is in a quarter, January, February, March. If you work during that period and got a couple paychecks, you get, even if you only work 2 weeks, you get credit for a quarter. You have to have, I think it's 40 quarters to even qualify for the minimum Social Security. So, if you will, a stay-at-home Mr. Dad, Mr. Mom, or stay-at-home mom that never worked anywhere, you're not going to get Social Security. You're just not. You didn't pay in. So what do you think about the plan to give it to people who come here from this country and don't work and get it? That will ruin everything for everybody, you and me. So it's got some real problems here. So Mom could end up with no Social Security due to no working through enough quarters. Their retirement income could be severely low, and although they might have, although the only thing they might have is their husband's Social Security and retirement funds and savings, but nothing more. That's a pretty lean cow there, ladies and gentlemen. A divorce could also play a hard role for women too. All of a sudden they are living alone, and in many cases now looking for a job after raising a family, and may not have any skill set to get a job with a good income. All these things are just lifestyle type things that happen. Don't make this stuff up. These things happen. Since women have a longer life expectancy, they could be faced with longer health care costs, yet the income may not be there. So in my terminology, this is a real challenge for men and women especially. And this could all start with a nice little discussion across the table where you can't throw things at each other about money and finances. It needs to happen at your house, all right? Well, a lady told me over the weekend, I was standing next to her, and she apparently knew who I was. She said, "Where's the gold in all the gold in yours, Rex?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "Well, the answer is you had to have a plan to bury the money in your backyard at some point and get yourself into retirement mode. And the thing that's hard about the gold in the golden years, it's usually a health issue. When they say there's no gold in the golden years, you probably said this to somebody, is because you have a health issue or health issues. And you say there's no gold in the golden years because you had leg surgery, you had knee surgery, you had hip replacement, all those things. And all of a sudden these things are kind of adding up. That's part of getting older, ladies and gentlemen. That's the hard part. Along the way, you can do things for yourself in health, and I'm not your doctor, but you know what not to be doing, and you know what you could be doing. Well, it's time to start doing those things that you could be doing. That will really, really help you in the long run, not maybe have so many issues. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to do or not to do. That's your thing. Well, I did attend that health fair, at the senior health fair down at the center, at the old post office, if you will. You've been around town for a while. A myriad of exhibitors, all in the business of providing services to seniors. There were table after table, booth after booth of these different organizations right here in Johnson County and Iowa City and Cornwall area that supply and provide services and products to seniors. That's us. Transportation assistance, dental assistance, food assistance, rental housing assistance, programs A to Z's for you veterans. And I was amazed. I wasn't shocked. I was amazed. And the fun part about this was they got all those folks in under the roof, one roof down there. They were all talking to each other. Oh, you guys did that. We could refer some of our people over to your organization. I think it was just as good for all those organizations to get in one roof as it was for the people to go there. Now, one of the groups gave me, you got a keychain and a pen every place you stopped, and one of them had a bag type of thing, a shopping bag, and so I took that and I picked up a few things. I picked up some nice brochures, which I'll be bringing to Senior Talk here one of these days on some things, especially the ones that provide services. And I had one gentleman tell me, we provide, matter of fact, it was from the University of Iowa, a dental professor. He said, we are the #1 provider of Medicaid dental coverage in the state of Iowa. Medicaid. So if you are eligible for Medicaid, and you would know if you are or you're not, the University of Iowa provides Medicaid services to Medicaid people. I was not aware of that. I honestly did not know that. So that's a new one for me, and that might help you too. I was just impressed with how many people can do that and be there. So I had a couple calls this week from a lady asking me. She said, we're in our late 50s. My husband and I have been talking, and she says, when can you sign up for Social Security? I said, well, you can sign up for Social Security. The doors open when you're 62, and you can get benefits at age 62. And then I said, don't forget, they're reduced benefits. What do you mean by that? And I said, well, 62 is kind of like the low end of the Chevys, the low end of the Fords. You can get that one. Is that the one you really want? You can get that one, but if you play your cards right. I said, if you need the money, you absolutely have to have it and sign up for your 62. I said, that's what you can do. And I've had friends of mine who don't need the money say, I signed up for 62. I don't need the money. Just take a little money in my pocket every year, every month, and away we go. I wanted to sign up to make sure it's there. I want it to be there when I got there. I wanted to get some money, so away you go. In Social Security, your benefits are based on the year you were born and the amount of quarters you work. So if you were born after World War II, right now you have to be about 66 and 2 months in order to get it. They raised it a little bit, all right? The average age of people signing up for it, Social Security, is 62.7. Now, Social Security has a term called FRA, we're going to talk about this more, but FRA, full retirement age. And for most of you listening, we'll just say it's 66, maybe 66 in 2 months. That's the date when you get the most. Or is it? Well, that's the day that they're going to pay you what you battled for all those years before I pay you the Social Security. That's when you're going to get your check. However, at age 66, if you will not sign up and wait till age 70, every year you wait from 66 to 70, they will give you 8% more. So from your full retirement age at 66, if you wait till 70, you'll get 32% more. Wow. Isn't that a deal? So there are 1,000,001 different things to do. So you and your wife are both get there. You're both 66, right at that. And said, let's go sign up. Well, what if you did this? What if one of you signed up and got it, and the other one waited till 70? And let's just say that the man waited till 70, with the law of averages here. The wife took it at 66, and the husband waited till 70. The law of averages would say, and I'm not, life expectancy averages, this is the way it is that he would get 32% more. But when he would pass away, his wife gets to move up to the 32% more. So in effect, he created a greater income for his wife, or vice versa. Pretty darn interesting stuff. Lots of programs. Now, you don't want to call, yes, you can call the Social Security office in town here out in Coralville, but don't ask them for advice. They're not ones you ask advice. They just work there. They will not offer advice. They'll say, here are the plans, which one you want to sign up for. You go talk to your accountant. You call a planner, financial planner, and put this all together, because you could make a mistake, and a lot of people do. All right. I just think that's important for you. Well, I've got the big news from the Coralville American Legion. From the Coralville American Legion, they're going to have an official flag retirement ceremony this Sunday, the Sunday before Labor Day. By the way, Monday is Labor Day, ladies and gentlemen, Labor Day. So remember, when I was a kid, probably you too, didn't start school till after Labor Day. That's just the way it was. Well, this Monday is Labor Day, so the day before that is Sunday on the Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock up at the Coralville Fire Department Training Facility, which is on 10th Street, which is just south of the interstate where the big water tower is. The American Legion is going to be up there. They've invited all kinds of volunteers and scouts. Scout groups will be there. We'll retire flags. And retire flags, U.S. flags, means burn them. That's an official sanctioned by the Legion. They'll be there with some men and women of the Legion to authorize this thing. Then the flag can be duly burned. And if you'd like to come and help and throw some on the fire, it's a very orderly type thing. Don't wear your Sunday go-to-meeting clothes. I prefer you wear cotton rather than rayon, stuff like that. Anybody would tell you that around the fire. So come on up. We've got about 1,000 flags, they tell me. About 1,000 flags, and they throw them on the fires. Be 2 fires there at about 5 apiece. You get the big line, you get 5 flags. Some big, some small, way you go. It's an honorable way to do that. It's a totally, and that's the only way, of course, the American Legion would be involved. Now, part of the thing with that is when they do that, they find flags that people have return boxes. Return boxes, and you'll see them all around there in Coralville Hy-Vee and out at Lowe's and City Hall and the Hills Banks and all kinds of different places around town. Iowa City, too. In Iowa City, you take them to those places down at the administration building, which is going to open up, by the way, the first of next week. The administration building's back up and running again. All right, full blast. Aha! That's where you pay your taxes. Did you get your tax bill? My. And your license plates. It's going to be back in business the first part of the week, full blast. All right. I want you to know there are some things that will qualify you for being old. And I didn't say how old or anything like that. Did you use a rotary phone? If you want to go through the yellow pages to this day, you'll see the thing in there. Bob's Plumbing Service, dial 338. Says dial. Well, that's no dial phone anymore. You used a rotary phone, you might be old. If you used floppy disks on your first computer, you'd be old. Did you use a typewriter? Well, yes, I did. All through college, high school, and grade school, 8th grade in Iowa, you had to take typing. I did, of course. Did you ever take pictures with the film camera? Well, you're old, ladies and gentlemen. It's all done digital now, for the most part. Did you listen to music on a CD? I still do, I think. Did you ever own a Walkman? Yes, I have 2. God. Did you watch movies on the VHS, like the tape thing? Yeah, I wish I had one of the players. I have all kinds of good old 1930s and 40s Westerns I'd like to be watching, but I don't have a TV that does them. Did you ever rent music or rent a movie to go? And they came to you on VHS. That's the way we started. That's where we rented lots and lots of them out of Taylor Rental in Coralville for my friend X Kretzmeyer. We did that a lot. That was state of the art. Did you learn cursive? Did you learn how to write? Well, Rex, you big dope. Everybody learned how to write. No, everybody doesn't learn how to write. Kids today do not learn how to write. They can't write their name. They can type it. They can send it to you on a computer. They can make an X, I guess. They do not learn how to write. For God's sakes, what's going on? I can't stand it. Did you ever use a fax machine? You're old, folks. Did you order records from Columbia House? Record of the Month Club. You know, you couldn't get them to stop sending you. My folks did. We used to get Perry Como, Lawrence Welk. We got all that. My brother and I would just roll our eyes, go get rid of the stuff. Did you ever use an encyclopedia? If you have some encyclopedias, folks, you might as well. When's the last time you used one? B, it's so dated it isn't funny. You might as well. Nobody will take them. You take them to a thrift shop. They tell you to get out. So it's recycle time. You ever used a phone book? Do you have a phone book? No. Did you know that you used to be able to pick a number? There was a number you could call and give you the time. The time is 2:42. True story. You remember that. Did you ever send a postcard? Well, I have a whole bunch of postcards. There's pictures of Iowa, and I got pictures of a giant ear of corn and a hog and a cow. And I send them to my cousins all the time. Because it goes through the post office, and all their friends see them, and all the guys at the post office. And I always say, if things aren't good here at the farm, please send money and stuff like that. Cousin Rex. I do that all the time, and just to have some fun with them. Let's see, did you ever use a paper map? I prefer a paper map rather than these stupid things on your phone or computer. I want a map. I want to unfold. Yes, I know how to fold a map. My dad taught us that when we were a kid. paper map? Did you ever own and use a dictionary? Well, folks, you're way behind schedule. Oh, my. Well, that what makes you old. So if you qualify under any of those circumstances, any of those scenarios, you are an official old, you're an official senior, most likely. Some of you may be using some of those things today. Question for you, why are retirees and seniors so slow to clean out the basement, the attic, or the garage? The answer? They know that as soon as they do, one of their adult kids will want to store their stuff down there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's Senior Talk for today. I really, really appreciate you listening to me. It's my pleasure to be here. I do my very best to bring some things. Give me a call, my senior line, 330-5534. If you have some topics, we'll be happy to see what we can do. This is Rex Branstetter saying thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. So long.
Your life is always changing, and a lot of things can affect how and what you save. So a good retirement